Good evening, this is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
This is Jay Street.
And welcome to The Source. Well, today we have a whole lot we want to talk about, and I want to thank all of you who view us and who have shared information, given us additional information as we are trying our best to go through the various things that are happening in and around our city. This show is not designed to be entertainment. This show is really a call to action show. We are looking at the various news, the various activities that are going on in and around our city, and we've decided that someone has to speak up. Someone has to be unbought and unbossed. And the three you see sitting here today is certainly fitting in that category. While we certainly are very interested in our community getting better and doing better, we will never ever be compromised by those individuals who feel that their power or their money can influence us. Today I want to start, Brother Kobe and Brother Street, talking about the shootings in Wilmington, because something happened on Gordon Street, something happened, there's just several things are happening, and I don't want people to believe that we just want to pick on the mayor, the chief of police, and other things, but at some point we have to have a plan. So just help me to start this part.
Yeah, even before we get to the shootings of this past week, I'm still very much stuck on the shootings that happened with two young individuals, a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old, and hearing the grandmother's perspective, now that we've had more time to hear from the family, of hearing her grandsons come in and say they've been shot, and them holding their stomach and bleeding out, how traumatic that is for someone.
Absolutely.
And then she also spoke about the fact that they need help with their medical bills right now. Their grandkids didn't ask for this. Their family didn't ask for this. And now, the 6-year-old just opened his eyes, and she shared a picture that almost brought me to tears, of him hooked up in the bed with all different type of tubings around him. This is the reality of what's going on here in the city, and I think people see these headlines sometimes. You have people in power see these headlines, and they're like, okay, we're going to make a statement, and then we're going to let it die down, and we're not really going to do nothing.
Right.
And I know we've talked about it a long time, over numerous episodes, but even now, something that a lot of us still follow, we necessarily don't get to see the pictures, the videos of what's actually going on in the hospital, and the damage that has been done, and the help that is still needed. So they're asking for donations. They do have a GoFundMe. I just wanted to bring that up because these families are being torn apart and forever changed due to the senseless gun violence here in the city of Wilmington.
Yeah, and people will immediately say, especially those who can care less about our community, will quickly say, well, they need to stop shooting each other. But if we had a plan, a strategic plan, and a trajectory of where we were going with this whole shooting epidemic that we're in, I believe some of this would be curbed. We're going to make sure by the end of the show we put up this GoFundMe page information so that we can try to help the best that we can. And in North Wilmington, there was another shooting. I mean, what are we doing?
Well, I want to follow up on what Kobe's saying, because Christiana Cares they have a trauma center. And for people who get hurt, they're making millions of dollars. And we had a period of time when there were victims of shootings. The Victims' Compensation Fund was paying the victims as long as they were not involved in a crime.
Right.
And they were paying for funerals. At one point, they were paying for all funerals. Now the maximum was $5,000, and you can't get.
Well, it went up from there, but a little bit, but not much.
But in the instant matter Kobe's talking about, I mean, have you no mercy in terms of the providers? You're making money all the time, and these children shot through no fault of their own, and now you're gonna make the family go bankrupt for their health care. At some point in time, it would disappear to me that just a sense of moral integrity would say we need to take care of this and leave these people alone.
Well,
we need to provide the service and leave these people alone.
Well, at some point, we do need to look into that to see what services are available and what should be available, even if it's not. I see what you're heading at, and that is that, with the victims' comp, if a person died of murder, there's a certain amount of money they give you towards the funeral. They don't pay for the funeral, but they did go up from the $5,000, just a couple dollars. But getting it sometimes is murder, unless you really have a lot of education and got people who know what they're doing. But the whole notion of paying for a child who have been harmed, that's something we need to look at.
And the other is, I recall, like it was yesterday, when I went back to Hilltop in 1995, and 2 of my students were found murdered in Rockford Park. Jim Sills went straight to the house and talked to the families. Jim Sills spoke and was a major part of eulogies. Who from the city has been over there to the hospital to see those kids? Who from the city has talked to them? And they did a good job with the 2 shootings that involved teenagers and young children earlier, probably a month ago now in June, and they arrested the shooters. There's been no arrests here in this last situation. And what's going on?
Well, I think they're going to hide behind the fact that, look, we're doing the best we can with what we got to work with, but that's a whole issue that's going on. One of the things I'm going to share with the TV viewing audience is that something happened with us over here that I did some investigative research, and we're getting ready to reveal it. I promised the chief that I was going to give him a call before I just reveal things to the community. I did place a call. He has not returned my call, so I'm going to hold off from this show, but it is sickening. When you watch the service that the city received, it's sickening. Not just from the police department, but from the city. And what's bothering me more is that we have a lawyer as a mayor, a developer as a mayor. We have people in his office who are African American, who represent the gay community as well, and the humanity is just not there. I would have thought, when you talked about Sills showing up, maybe the mayor can't because he's so busy. But no one can? No one can have a heart to be able to go and help? These young people, sure, somebody can say, well, why are they out at 12 o'clock at night? That's not our business.
But the article made it crystal clear. They were out grilling. The newspaper article made it crystal clear. So they were supervised. They were outside grilling in front of their homes.
Well, I think that's the Gordon Street shooting. But the 2 kids he was speaking of was out late at night, I believe. Am I right? They were out late at night, and some people have criticized that. The people who don't want to do nothing for the community, they criticize, why were those kids out that time of the night? Now, the one you're talking about was the Gordon Street, and you're absolutely correct. That is a totally different scenario, but it speaks to the level of policing that we have, the level of concern that we have from the community that we serve. It's just really sickening, and I just don't know what to do. Is there anything else you want to talk about as it relates to this whole policing thing?
And I just want to say the kids and the ones who are criticizing them, right, for being out at midnight, it was midnight 4th of July. Everyone's out. Everyone's watching the fireworks. Everyone's having fun.
Okay.
But don't y'all want to give the mayor credit and the city credit for the beautiful fireworks that they put up over the city? I thought it was outstanding.
Some of us live fireworks every day. Some of us live fireworks every day in the city. We get a bang, boom, and a bomb every day.
So then you felt like a lot of people felt when all that was going on, you didn't know if it was fireworks or gunshots?
Basically. And some people are immune.
Yeah, that's true.
Are immune to it.
They still have beautiful fireworks.
Okay, well, and it's all right to have beautiful fireworks. And you still have a beautiful tie on today.
And?
Thank you. You answered it for me. Let me move to another thing that's concerning me real quickly. I received anonymous source today shared some information that really troubled me. We were on the show last week talking about the drinking water. And we were talking about, how the mayor put out a statement that it's safe to drink. And that's how I know people are watching our show. We got some good, viable, credible information where no one in the public works leadership or the water department, if you want to, whatever language you want to use, have any credentials to be there. From a lawyer who, according to the source, was put there, to black people being kicked out of the department who had experience, to no one knowing what they're doing. And the last part that got me is they went to Jersey again and got a consulting firm who is helping to understand what needs to happen with Public Works. What is going on in the city?
Well, the fact of the matter is, the show itself is having an impact because now we're having people from all walks of life, and who are seriously concerned about fairness in our city, watching and now contacting us. But the harsh fact is, there's nothing new about this. There have been extended period of times over the during this mayor's tenure when you had people up there running the Department of Public Works that wouldn't know a backhoe from a bulldozer. That's just the harsh reality. And you know, when you put the integrity of the city's water system in somebody's hands, you have to have people who have the background, have the knowledge, have all the things that somebody needs to have in order to make sure that the city's water is safe. And when all of a sudden algae is complex, and how you get it out is complex, I think we've got a problem. And I think the concerns may be meritorious, and I think it's going to take some investigative work.
Thank you.
And when you look at what appears to me to be moving toward continued privatization of the operation of the Department of Public Works, we've got to be concerned, and we've got to wake up and say, is this or is this not acceptable? Which is why I'm going to repeat what I said last week. When the dust falls from the primaries and all this is over, we're going to have a come to Jesus meeting with elected officials and community leaders throughout the city, because it's time for change. It's time to make some change. And I don't think we should be among the few sitting around the city willing to make noise and take the risk of the scrutiny that we're all under to bring people this information.
But let me say this to you. When you talk about the level of incompetence, the lack of knowledge, the lack of experience with the water Public Works, could this have happened under Dennis Williams? Wouldn't the state would have already called for our charter by now?
Oh, the state would have been in here probably checking the water and making its own determination, which they probably need to do anyway. But you know, you've had situations where you know you've had people in leadership positions where you had to question their ability to be there, and I'm concerned about it. But
this is drinking water. This is what happened in Flint.
Yes.
See, y'all don't. Let's not forget. This when you have people. I think the News Journal, and I'm going to make a call this week. I think the News Journal. I think someone needs to ask the question: what are the credentials of the people who are leading the water department? How did they get there? Because the way I'm getting my sources, these people have no. You said a hole and a hole. What did you say?
You wouldn't know the difference between a backhoe and a bulldozer.
Well, the real problem is that's why we're in the predicament we're in, and because City of Wilmington, it has so many black and brown people, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who leads it. It doesn't matter who sets the trajectory of it. We just need to make sure that we take care of our buddies, people who can't pass certain tests in order to go into their field.
But for example, if you put me as in charge of something having to do with water, I don't know algae from celery. So why would you put me there in the first place?
Because you're white. Because you're my crony.
There you gotta
because
go.
you're my crony. because you do what I tell you to do.
Everything is not racist.
What you know what? You're right. Everything is not racist, but everything that happens that is racist need to be called out. Because you know what I said.
You've had people in leadership positions from all walks of life.
Okay.
Who, if you look at their resumes,
okay,
you have to question their ability to be in leadership, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
But you know, back in the day, before your time, Kobe, because you're a newcomer in the generations, folks, they used to criticize women who were not qualified for a position, and they would say, "Oh, she slept her way to the top," and criticize her. But now it's no more of any kind of that kind of criticism. It's strictly, you know what? If you can get my gender across, we give you the position. Because the people he got in the water department now are women, white women.
Well,
a lawyer who is not bar certified. People who don't know the difference between a backhoe and a bulldozer. And that's what my problem is today. And they're running the city, and no one is challenging it. And I think we have to get angry and begin to, I don't want you to tear up the place, but begin to question, because I'm going to ask someone to please do an investigation, and let's reveal the resumes of those who are running the city.
And all I'm telling you is the questions and concerns I have certainly not limited to whoever's running what now, because this started sometime before the people whoever they are who are running things now. In my opinion, we had the problem before they even came on the scene.
But you know, when I was built our first building, I think it was a guy named Cash. He was in charge of. You remember him? Cash was his name. He was in charge of the water department. He had the credentials, and that was during Dennis's time. That was during Baker's time. So I don't know what information you have, but I remember Cash because I didn't care too much for him too. But he had the credentials. He could speak the language. He understood. You don't have to always agree. But I call racism when you put a person in a position who are not qualified, and they're there based on the fact that they are able to carry an agenda, or because they're of the color of their skin.
Okay, I'm gonna leave it alone.
Wow.
For right now, because I'm just telling you, whatever the current examples may be, there are other examples, and that's in both within this administration and previous administration. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay, well, right now I'm in this administration. Right now we got a memo out that the water is brown and it's full of algae. Right now we have this issue.
But you can drink it.
No, you ain't gonna drink it because you got money, and your cousin and them, they ain't gonna drink it neither. And it's not always, like you said, you asked a question, and I'm gonna challenge all of y'all all the time, and I want you to challenge me because there's no privileged characters here. You said, why everything gotta be racist? You're right, there's black people in his office, your cousin and them. And they don't,
I think she does a great job, and I think John Rago does a great job, so.
You think the mayor does a great job?
Well, he's not the worst mayor we've ever had.
Okay.
But the fact of the matter
Name
is,
the one that's the worst.
If I'm not going to do
Name
that.
one who's worse than
I'm not
him.
going to do that because I like the person. And all the mayors I have been associated and affiliated with no longer with us, and I'm not going to disrespect anybody. So, but if I was mayor, I'd keep both of them. Now, that's just my 2 cents.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're running for some office, and I hope they give you the grant money that you so requested.
I don't receive any money from the city.
You must be getting something. Must give you gas money.
I'm just telling you. When I have a problem,
okay,
because constituents call me all the time, yes.
And you know why? Because you got a big mouth. But what about those individuals who don't?
But we all got a role to play.
You're right. But they should have to only respond to you.
No, my big mouth versus when people call me, they say I call this elected official, I call that elected official, and you're the only one call me back.
Yeah.
So they're limited. Constituents are limited to who they can actually turn to because you got too many people in office who don't care.
Absolutely. But I'm not going to turn the trajectory of our conversation to the people who don't care like elected officials. We pay people to care. We pay people to care. And your cousin and them, we pay to care.
I'm just telling you the harsh reality of the life that I have to live, because when people call me with legitimate concerns, I try to respond. And when I try to respond if it's a city issue, I know who I go to.
Okay, good. I'm so glad that you can. And I can go to them too, but I want to be able to where everybody can go and do what they got to do. Constituent services is very important. It's very important. It is very important. I'm sorry.
Now, yeah, my point to this, right, and I'm a data person.
Okay.
Right? So on the city website, they only have up until 2020 or water quality report. I would love to see the 2021 one, and then at the end of this year, see the 2022 one.
Do we have such a report?
Yeah, they
Is
do.
there such
They
a
have
report?
up to 2020,
Okay.
but there should be a 2021 one somewhere.
Okay.
It's just not public yet. But I will say this. Epic Water Filters, which is a Boulder, Colorado, did a quality test of our water, the Brandywine Creek here, which is our main water source, right? That's what provides us with water, not only in Pennsylvania, but also in Delaware. They did a quality check, and they found, through a third-party investigation, again, this is in the city's department, this is a third-party testing, found that the quality, or the quantity of, and excuse me for mispronouncing this, because I know I'm going to mess it up, methane
Okay.
in our water is higher than the recommended health guidelines for drinking water that's contaminated here in Wilmington. Now, you ask, what is that? It contains multiple things such as triethyl methanes, chlorine, and other things, which is used in purifying tap water already.
Right.
But it causes cancer, kidney,
That's the
and
part.
liver damage. The byproducts also increase the risk for cancer and could cause problems during pregnancies for women who are pregnant. So that was their number one thing. But they listed a few things on here, including things that cause kidney disease, cause heart issues and stuff like that. So I think there needs to be a city-done quality test as well too, to see where we're lacking in our system, where it's coming from, right? Because we already know the water's contaminated at a astonishing rate.
Absolutely.
Right? And if we don't do something about that, well, on the back end, we're not going to have clean drinking water here. And everyone talks about Flint. We're going to be the new Flint.
Yeah.
And there's
people not
already
paying attention.
happening.
But it's critical that people understand that it all has to center around the wastewater treatment plant and that turnaround, because the sewer water goes to the wastewater treatment plant and then it comes back. So it's all contingent on how it's treated and how well it's treated and who's treating it.
But if we don't know what we're doing, how is it treated?
And here's another one. It sounds the same, but it's dibrochloromethane, right? It's used. It's been traditionally used in fire extinguisher fluids, spray can propellants, refrigerator fluid, and pesticides. Now it's only used in laboratories, but they found you can't find it pure liquid outside the laboratory. They're finding it in our water now,
Jesus.
which will cause liver and kidney damage.
And the only people that really affect is poor people. Why?
Yes.
Because some people who live in the city, who can afford it, who drive big cars, they buy their water. But the people who have to make
Why are
ends
you
meet.
looking at me talking about big cars and people who can afford
Oh,
it?
I'm sorry.
First of all, okay, I worked 2, 3, one time 4 jobs
Yes,
all
sir.
my life,
Yes,
and
sir.
I ain't took nothing from nobody.
Never.
Okay, and we talked about the grants earlier. The city under the Baker administration started taking all the grants from Hilltop and other agencies throughout the city, and we've been on our own for a long, long time. And third, when people did give me a grant and tried to control me, I gave them the damn money back.
And
So
you did.
I ain't the one.
Right, but you still like your cousin and them.
I sure do.
All right, but I
I'm
want to
not
go
done
back.
now.
What works for me works for me, and what the work that I do is to the benefit of the people
And that's
who
true.
call and
That's
ask
true.
for help.
That's true. And honestly, I like to get you going, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't be this close and respect you to the level that I do if I thought you could be bought. I don't think you can be bought, and that's why I don't mind debating with you, even if you like your cousin and them. Go ahead.
So in the last part here that's being found in the Brandywine Creek and in our water that we're drinking, it's a lot of them, but this is another one that stuck out to me. It's dichloroactic acid. And that one causes cancer, reproductive issues, and has a long history of causing child development issues, especially in that key critical age of 0 to 3.
And we are among the states and cities who have the highest rate of infant mortality.
Yes.
And have the highest rate of children with disabilities and special needs at a very young age. So
And highest rate of cancer.
do those things comport with each other?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's all
Yes.
environmental justice issue. And if you look at it also, it also causes eye and nerve damage among youth as well too. That's part of the development. So this is what's going on, right? And we had the money already. We had the ARPA funds. This has been a study that's been out since 2020. You've seen where the mayor has put the money towards. He's given it to Bacini Pollen. He's going to redevelop the east side. Let's fix our drinking water. Why? Because the mayor says, oh, well, and the eminent domain sponsor, Nam Di Trococha, they come over north side and say, oh, well, we have no plans over here. But that water affects every single person here in the city of Wilmington. Now, if you have extra funds available for a better filtration system, that's good for you. But that should be across the board for everyone. There's just some things that are basic human rights. And one of them is the air you breathe and the water you drink. And if it's companies and corporations that are coming in and using the fact that Delaware has lower taxes here for corporations and they're polluting our waters, they should be held accountable, and the government who oversees that, who's not doing nothing, should be voted out.
Yeah.
But okay, and I repeatedly intentionally failed science because I hated it. Okay, so I don't have a good understanding of all the scientific things you're talking about, but I know it's beyond water. It's also air. And when you mix the two, and you know, DNREC continues to monitor the air, but at least in my council district, especially outside the city, I don't know what permits they have denied, knowing that you've got cancer clusters that they recognize as cancer clusters in that heavy industry area, and my council district outside the city is the only place in the state of Delaware where you're allowed to have heavy industry next to residential areas.
Which is
okay, if you take my district outside the city, Southbridge sits
right there,
just like this.
And some of us have been fighting, even when they try to do certain things, and we fight, and they still approve they have these long meetings or these long conversations, and you get certain politicians who agree with them, and they still do it, and they're still creating the havoc, and it is a problem. The breathing and the water is a problem.
And those type of things, whether it's long-term or brief exposure at high doses, right, leads to cancer. Yeah. It leads to cancer of the bone, liver, stomach,
and you
lungs,
want to know why our people
skin,
are dying the way they
kidneys, thyroid glands. I can go on for days on. It damages your tissues and your cells at a molecular level that you have nothing to do about that, right?
Right.
This is why people are calling for better protections.
Well, I'll say this. We got to say, under the Buzicki administration, we had these reports. So if it started getting to a place where we are becoming Flint, which I think we are already there, we want to make sure the history show where it started and the mayor that chose not to do anything to fix it. We got one more thing we need to touch on before we go to our commercial break, and that is we talked about last week about this about the attorney, the state auditor, and we said, who tells the Democratic Party what to do? Well, they went out and found themselves an African American to run against her. What's going on?
I have no idea. I saw the article, which was printed in Delaware Public Media, and you know, it's African American female. Now versus the state auditor who's currently in office, who's been convicted of misdemeanors, and I think it's going to be an interesting race to watch. I still, just in terms of fairness, I don't understand how state auditor gets indicted for doing things that other public officials have done.
Political agenda.
I mean, but
that's how they do. That's why we got to be careful what we do, because people can own you easily.
And I just, full transparency, I've served on the Democratic Party executive board with Lydia now for 6 years. And I've worked with her in the past. She's an AKA. She lives in Pike Creek. She's an attorney. She's a certified public accountant. She has a lot of experience in public accounting. So, she is qualified
to run
for this. And I think,
How come? Now she's African American.
Yes.
How come you got to give her resume, but normally we ain't got to do that? That's why I say look at the race side of it. She is well qualified. I mean, I don't care who went. Well, I do care who went. But think about it. You done gave her a full resume. She is qualified.
Right.
But how come we got to do that?
Because every time we have an African American person, whether it's for school board or if it's for president, are they qualified? Do they understand?
And we have to be qualified.
The workings of the real world.
That's not true. We have to be overqualified.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
Okay.
We agree.
And as I have said repeatedly, with people who break barriers, those who break barriers, historically and traditionally, have had to meet or exceed the standards of everybody else.
Absolutely.
And more often than not, those who break barriers do a very good job in exceeding the standards. And that fundamental fairness is not going to go away in my lifetime, your lifetime, and probably not in your lifetime.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we even saw it in the presidential election, the Democratic primary, when they talked about we had 3 highly qualified mayors, former mayors, run for president. 2 of them were minorities. 1 was white from Indiana. The other 2 was from Texas and from New Jersey. Now, they were all 3 Rhodes Scholars, mayors. The 2 minorities were mayor of larger cities, with Newark being a large city, and then San Antonio being one of the largest top 10 cities in the nation. But whenever the press talked about their, the Rhodes Scholars, the education, they only talked about Mayor Buttigieg. They completely ignored the qualifications of a mayor who was one of the top 10 largest cities in the nation,
Right.
in Department Secretary of Health or Secretary of Housing and Urban Development for the Obama administration, Julian Castro, and then even ignored, which I think is an even higher step than that, is a sitting U.S. Senator from New Jersey in Cory Booker.
Right.
But they ignored those 2, and that's what you have to deal with.
Okay, look, who controls the press? All right, and that's the harsh reality of the country in which we in, the country in which we live in, and unfortunately, I think one of the worst things that happened inevitably is the fact that Barack Hussein Obama was overqualified, did an outstanding job as president, and the haters just said, we can't have this. And we can't have this to the detriment now of the entire country. But
that's why Trump came along.
I remember,
he was their response.
I remember as a child, the entire family going to D.C. to the March on Washington, and we marched, we demonstrated, litigated, and all this time later, we have yet, as a people, to benefit from that struggle. But other minorities have been able to benefit
like
from,
white
from that struggle.
Yeah.
And for us, things are getting progressively worse. But the other beneficiaries of the civil rights struggle, that's now it's gonna go away.
Yeah.
Be crystal clear with this Supreme Court.
Yeah.
That's why we got to vote Democrat.
It's going away.
Yeah, and you're absolutely correct. We'll be right back. And we're back. Well, Kobe, we're at that time of the show where we talk about what's going on in Kobe's world, the Kobe's Corner. What's happening?
Yeah, so I want to talk about cost of living. Right now, everyone's pockets are being hit very hard. The rate of inflation in the United States hit a record high of 9.1% in the month of June, which breaks almost a 4-decade record, they said. But then I looked more in it because I always look at the data. It was broken in May with an 8.6 rate of inflation. So prices are going up. Now, we are seeing gas prices come down.
There you go again. Then I'm going to say it again. Gas was $2 when Trump was president. I don't want to hear nothing about no $4.50. Gas is going down.
Okay, it's going down.
Gas overall, gas is up 59.9% over the last 6 months.
If it were not so, I would have told you.
The average is $4.63 per gallon. The average everywhere, mainly except for California, where the average is $6.02. I'm just saying, if I lived in California, I would have been moving by now. But you know, gas prices are still very high. Cost of living overall, so whether it's your rent, which now the city of Wilmington is a majority rental city, your basic food needs, food and water is costing more, bills are costing more. People are struggling right now, and I think there has to be a more concerted effort to really address what is going on and address some of the price gouging that's going on as well too. Based on reports, they're saying that we may go into a small recession as early as December of this year, which would be very bad for us, because every time that happens, a lot of black people who still own their properties, who have that home ownership, we're usually the first ones hit and affected by it, and puts us back in the cycle of lack of that generational wealth, especially when it comes to home ownership.
Yeah. Now you said something about 9.something% that we have gone up, and still, just so we can keep reminding our audience, and still the city council with the command of the mayor increased our taxes.
Yeah, they increased at 11% overall.
Unbelievable.
And again, that's
you
fuel,
get your water bill,
fuel, food, housing, Medicare, medical care, clothing, all of that has gone up. And now our taxes as well too, thanks to some of the city council members, not all of them, but some of them who voted for that, and Mayor Purzycki's vision to kind of price people out. Wilmington itself saw a 12.1% increase in rent alone here in the city of Wilmington, which also increases what you should be paying for affordable housing as well too.
Yeah,
but in my opinion, everybody's stealing. Okay, because there's no gas shortage.
No,
you haven't seen any gas stations close. And back when you had increases and problems with gas, there were always gas wars between gas stations lowering prices. But you haven't seen. And when you go in the stores, as it relates to dairy products and all that, the shelves aren't empty. So why is it all this? I don't understand it. And
maybe we can get an economist.
More importantly, like I'm saying, everybody's stealing. I had to buy a dryer. Well, buy the dryer, it don't come with no cord. Now you got
yeah. Because if you have a gas or electric, that's true. At first I know what you're talking about, but you're right. When you buy, you have to buy the cord that's compatible.
But I've been buying dryers all my life.
It's been a while.
It has been a while, but they always came with a cord.
Yeah.
And then somebody was telling me they brought a washer and didn't come with no hoses.
Right, you got to buy the right hoses to go with your plumbing, and they fixing it so they can always.
Then they fixing it so somebody's always taking something. I mean, things that used to be included
It's
or no longer included.
Yeah, that's why you can't fix your own car no more. Go ahead.
So
Well, that's the way they design them.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's just flat out wrong.
All right.
well,
Can't even change your own oil.
Go ahead.
speaking of cost of living,
Can
and
I borrow
housing,
$20?
you're the big politician over there.
You have to learn how to talk.
I can't
You're the
get
big
no
politician over there.
grants.
You ain't gonna get no grants now.
Speaking of the cost of living and housing and rental here in the city of Wilmington, I want to circle back to the North Adams Street.
Okay.
And what's going on there. Now, I've taken
Oh,
a
they
lot of
boarded up?
flack. They have a gate around
A
them now.
gate around it, not boarded up.
I've taken a lot of flack for my advocacy for those residents and against some of the bills that have been introduced, especially the eminent domain, because the city doesn't have a true plan on what to do with the power they have already. So why give them more power? They have not shown that they deserve more power. This is Pizicki, this is Maria Cabrera, this is Chris Johnson, and all of those ones who are doing what he wants. Brigida Fields is another critical one. But if you look at it, Maria Cabrera attacked organizers, the Homes Campaign, the Urban League, the NAACP, saying we only have one community forum. And she knew about eminent domain for months, for almost 4 months, and she hosted nothing. But she blames community groups for figuring it out in a week's time and pulling something
Y'all didn't
together
even
in a
have-
few days.
Didn't even have a week.
That's
You
her
had-
role.
you had-
Why
you had
did she do
several
one?
days. And why did the legislation fail as a result of one press conference?
'Cause it was
and
monarchy.
and one community meeting.
Because it was
okay,
monarchy.
one press conference, one community meeting was able to stop that legislation, but it's coming back and it's going to be a fight to the finish.
It is coming back.
But the other thing they're going to have to figure out is whether or not the legislation is crafted will withstand a constitutional test. And the way it's crafted right now, I'm not so sure that it can.
No, I agree with you. But here's my thing, right? So Councilwoman Maria Cabrera talked about how North Adams Street was a key component of why they need eminent domain to get rid of these properties, because the city has no power to go in and see what's going on. This was also a key talking point of the mayor when they displaced 27 families here in the city of Wilmington, that they had no power to know this. It wasn't until the wall fell down could they see what was really going on and get in there. Well, come to find out, just 2 weeks, 2 weeks prior to them shutting down the North Adams Street apartments, the city signed off, their inspectors, the city inspectors, signed off on the safety of one of the units, claiming the ceiling leaks, mold, and mildew, and the weak floors were all fixed. Those were all a part.
Were they fixed?
No.
Wait a minute, hold it. For my seniors who are watching, are you saying that 2 weeks prior to the shutdown, that the city of Wilmington went in after a complaint and said you had to do A, B, C, fix this, fix this, fix this? They went in and, or I don't know if they went or not, they signed off that it was done and it was not?
Right. And then 2 weeks later, the city goes in, and now there's other buildings there that they didn't get in. So I will say that. But they go into the same building, same apartment, and still cite it for leaking floors, ceilings, deteriorating floors, and the facility's electrical system not being up to par. That and just structure issues of the building as well too. Now it's one or other. Either y'all didn't get in there and y'all falsified those documents, and whoever did that needs to be fired, or y'all did get in there and then y'all said, oh wait, this is our opportunity to go ahead and get these properties, and they had even more time than what the mayor said, which he said we only had the weekend. That's why we didn't have a plan for where the residents were going to go. And thank God for Matt Myers for stepping up and saying, hey, we can have half of them come to the Hope Center. And then thank God for State Representative Sherry Dorsey Walker, who said, all right, for the ones who can't go to the Hope Center, let's get them a motel to stay in and get the state to cover it. Because without those two's leadership on this issue, all those people would have been out of luck. And you want to know why I know that? For a fact. This isn't hypothetical. For a fact.
Okay.
Because from that day to that Thursday, 3 days, 3 days, 24 other people were evicted from their houses. Same process as North Adams, but it was just smaller, one-off incidents throughout the city of Wilmington. They had no resources made available to them. The city actually turned them away when they came to the resource fair for North Adams Street, because if you didn't live on North Adams Street and you didn't have the media following what happened to you, the city did not care. That is what is going on, and that's what the mayor is pushing for.
This is horrible. This is just outright horrible. And we talk about humanity.
Yeah.
We talk about people who care. No. People don't care. When I say people, I mean the leadership in the city. And you talk about Cabrera, who supposed, I thought when she first ran, I was so with her. Mm-hmm. I'm really shocked and disappointed that power have made you mad. Power have made you hungry to the point where you just need more. This is horrible.
Right. And then on top of that, another building that's a part of that block of buildings condemned was cited in February 23rd, 2021 for the same issues. For the same issues, leaking ceilings, fire damage, missing window glasses.
People are living like that?
Living like that because we have slumlords here. And again, we have been saying this for a long time.
Why are we pushing for eminent domain when we could push for dealing with these landlords?
Well, it's not just dealing with the slumlords, right? Take their business licenses
away. That's what I'm talking about.
Don't allow them to have any more business in the city of Wilmington.
Is there a process that says in order for you to get your license back, you have to have an inspection?
You should have a pre-rental inspection before every time you switch tenants, right? There should be a pre-rental inspection to make sure the property is good. And then on top of that, that's going to cost manpower. But how can you get the manpower? Let's see. Let's put people to work in the city of Wilmington. Mm-hmm. Let's hire the local people here in Wilmington to teach them how to become inspectors. Look, everything has become you need a master's degree, you need a PhD for simple jobs. Right. The fact that some of these jobs are all you have to do is learn the stuff on site.
Right.
It's an apprenticeship program.
Absolutely.
It's you learn it on the job, how you used to do it. But they don't want to do that. And then they want to change the residency because the mayor's not invested in building our workforce here. He wants to go other places and find people.
And that's a problem. You have one more thing
because we have to go. As y'all may not know, voted not once but twice that all city employees should live in the city. Mm-hmm. And the exact same members of the General Assembly who opposed the desegregation order, who were hell-bent and determined to have the court order lifted, and it instantly resegregated as soon as the court order was lifted, were the exact same people who sponsored the legislation to say that city employees no longer had to live in the city of Wilmington, and they were going to eliminate the requirement altogether. And former Mayor Baker, to his credit, was able to negotiate the 5 years, which you know and I know all the employees are not even adhering to that. Yeah. And at the point where you've got the predominance of your public safety people living outside the city, the city's not as safe as it should be. And if you have a potentially catastrophic situation, it's going to be probably a couple hours before, if you call for all hands on deck, everybody can get into the city based on the fact that they're no longer required to live here.
Yeah, we ran out of time on this segment, so we're going to come right back and talk about Heat on the Street, and we may pick up your deadline as well. We'll be right back. And we're back. Well, you know, what's going on with street heat? What's happening? What's going on?
Well, I am gravely concerned about the fact that I look at two articles, one in the News Journal and one in WDEL, which goes into some detail about the fact that a former corrections officer was sued by a former inmate for beating, mistreating, physical abuse, harassment, and the inmate sued. The case was dismissed by a federal judge. This happened in 2019. But both the News Journal and WDEL pointed out the fact that the former corrections officer is now a Wilmington police officer.
Whoa.
So this transpired, whatever transpired with him and the inmate happened in 2019. And you can say...
That recent?
Yes, and you can say, well, it was dismissed. It's of no moment. He didn't prove it. Well, here's the reality as far as I'm concerned. This happened in 2019, so that means that the police officer was hired after 2019. Well, who's in charge? Now, if you look at that, either one or two things are apparent to me. Either somebody did a poor job of vetting in the hiring process, or the kind of cowboy and the kind of behavior that the inmate accused the former corrections officer of is exactly what they want in the Wilmington Police Department. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
Either somebody did a poor job of vetting, or that's what they want.
Absolutely.
And in my view, neither one are acceptable.
I want to look into that a little bit further too. There's a couple of things we talked about today I want to keep looking into, and I want to re-engage the News Journal on that one because that's scary. That's scary.
But no, y'all don't get it. Okay? The fact to me, what's compelling is both the News Journal said the article was crystal clear that the former corrections officer is now a Wilmington police officer. WDEL made it crystal clear. The former corrections officer is now a Wilmington police officer. Don't y'all get it? Both news outlets are saying, what are y'all going to do about this?
Hey, it's my police department.
What are y'all going to do about this?
That fits in. Officer Waters was fired from Cecil County, which is known for their racism, was fired from Cecil County for infractions, and almost immediately hired on by the city of Wilmington.
So here again, it was either poor vetting or that's what you want.
Well, yeah, that's what they want, because if you have a police chief who's covered up the death of a young black 17-year-old in Chicago when he was a consultant for the Chicago Police Department and worked for them, he helped cover that up. You bring him here, make him one of the highest paid city employees, I think he is the highest paid in the history, and then you see a pattern of him quote unquote giving officers a second chance, but they don't give the community a second chance. But these officers have broken the mistrust of the community, and this is why they need to have better practices when it comes to hiring these officers and holding them accountable. But, and I know you're going to get mad at this, but we can't do that right now because we don't have civilian review boards. We don't have civilian oversight boards. We don't have any amendments to Leah Board, which would give the public some input on that. And that's all because of Frank Cook.
Oh, gee.
Oh, God.
Oh, we're going to do it with this young guy. But I hear you. And I'm not even going to play the game. I'm not even going to play the game.
The fact of the matter is, the mayor committed to supporting Police Community Review Board the same day that he committed to body cameras with or without funding.
Right.
He followed through. And he was going to support that. But I don't think that you can put it not going through the General Assembly as it should, and I agree with, on my good friend Frank Cook.
Well, let me go back to the mayor, right? So when the mayor made that commitment, we talked to the press afterwards. I made it very clear that one of those commitments could be done today, which was the body-worn cameras, right? The other is just a hope and dream commitment, and he knows that. He knew.
But he committed to it.
He committed to it, but he worked behind the scenes to make sure it didn't happen down in Dover.
You think that's true?
He talked to members of the General Assembly saying we did not truly need that right now here in the city of Wilmington because we need more structure, and he has to control what's going on.
But the fact of the matter is, on his watch, on his police chief's watch, not one, not two, not three, but 4 police officers arrested. Oh, but of course now the FOP says former. But y'all was cops when you did it.
But it wasn't just on their watch, right? Because it wasn't like they took the step to get rid of these officers. These officers retired so that they could get their pensions. But it was the city, the mayor and the chief defended all 4 of them with a lot of effort, a lot of money.
In civil litigation.
But also it was thanks to organizations like the NAACP, the ACLU, who helped bring forth some of these public mistrust issues and police brutality issues. And really keep pushing to put pressure on it and get it in the media enough so that they couldn't just brush it under the rug like they like doing.
But I think that one of the things news outlets need to consider is some investigative reporting on settlements. They have been able to expose some that were hidden, but I think my limited understanding is there may be others.
Oh yeah, there's a whole lot of others. But we've run out of time, and I really wish that I can get more time, because if we can get a 2-hour show, that would really help us to really take our time with a lot of these issues.
Who's going to sit here and argue with you for 2 hours?
You are, because these issues, these are not my issues.
That dog ain't never going to hunt for me.
Well, real quick, let me, we can do it in 2 different days. Let's go to the port, because that's another thing that concerned me about the investigative reports that is happening. Let's talk about that real fast.
Well, the fact of the matter is that 10-page report by the News Journal, which is the second major report they've done on the port, and the lease agreement between Diamond State Port Corporation and Gulf Tainer. Well, Gulf Tainer they signed the lease, they're supposed to take it over, but yet there are millions of dollars being paid by the state to go into Gulf Tainer. And here again, the News Journal, or that 10-page article is crystal clear. It's saying, what are y'all going to do about this? Something has to be done. And I think that message is being sent to state officials who the ones who put this in place, and also saying it to city leaders and the citizens. Something needs to be done about this. Community leaders, what are y'all going to do?
All I want you to know,
and there's been discussion ever since the lease was signed about a community benefits agreement, and there's been no benefits. By the same token, I perused, because I really don't understand how to read that 101-page bond bill and where the line is, but there's money in the bond bill to renovate Palmer School for training. There's money in the bond bill for things that Gulf Tainer wants. But interestingly, in the whole discussion we had in the community meeting about the Port of Wilmington and the expansion, the city of Wilmington, even though Diamond State Port Corporation has the ownership, or has whatever the agreement is with the city to run the port, and they leased it to Gulf Tainer, the city of Wilmington still has the environmental liability.
But they know what they do.
Now, what sense does that make?
None at all. But
you give away the port,
yeah,
but you maintain the environmental liability.
That's called backhand deals. We're out of time today, and I really feel bad because we had some more topics we wanted to try to touch, especially in the street heat. Like the concern you have with the school district requesting information, the Colonial School District requesting information about Wilmington students. Do you have a 10 seconds you can just give us something on that?
Here's the fact of the matter is, I am going to ask the Redden Consortium to disaggregate all the data as relates to all the schools for children in the city of Wilmington. And I think we're going to be sadly impressed with what's now going on with our children. And once I get that information, I'm going to expose it, and I'm saying, I've been fighting this fight for a long, long time, and I'm going to ask other people to step in and step up, because the city as a city can no longer be put in a position where it just remains silent on the inappropriate miseducation of the city's children.
All right. Well, we out of time today, and I really want to thank you all. Every week we come together. We try our best to give you the news and the information that will help you be motivated. And I hope and trust that what you will do is take this and ask more questions. Ask more questions. As we get closer to the election time, I told one of the brothers who was on the Coffee with Curry that we need some anti-people, people who will speak up against people who are against progressing the agenda of helping people or representing the areas that they are supposed to be in. So I just hope that you will start speaking up and start asking the questions. Why did I hear this? If Street is wrong, if Curry is wrong, if Owens is wrong, then where are your facts at? Where are your information at? Give me some information. And I think the more we educate you, the more you're going to have to speak up and speak out. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
This is Jay Street.
And listen, see ya.
Take care, y'all.